Yeah, I guess maybe we bring this up in regards to how tamper-proof this stuff is. I always I love to debate, anyways, and I always think good debate is good debate. One of the things is people say, well, it can be tampered with. You can replace the pin. As a firearms enthusiast, I have a couple handguns. Yes, I intimately know that firearm. When I first got buy the firearm, I don't intimately know it. So I struggle through getting the field stripping guide and going through it and trying to extract all the parts and reassemble it. And if you have intimate knowledge of the firearm, you might have that ability to go in there and try to pull the firing pin out. This is a little thing. We did a test out in California, and one of the officers there was adamant about how he could take this thing apart. So I said, well, here. And he goes, well, I don't want to do it. I said, well, then I'll do it for you. So I took off the slide, pulled out the pin, handed him the pin. He immediately said, all right, well, and I said, look, here, I brought all these files and all this stuff to deface it. Go ahead. The key with this type of technology is you click across it with a RASP file, you're not really going to get it. If you go to a very fine thing, you might be able to do it. Now, if you're an expert or if you think you'll be able to do it. He did it, and I looked at it and said, not quite yet, keep going. And he did it a little bit more, and I finally said, look, I'll make it easier for you. And I went into my briefcase and got out a specific piece of material which is hard enough in which to do some damage. And he went at it. And I said, are you done? He said, yes. I took it, I stuck it back in the firearm, loaded it up, we brought it to the range, we fired off some cartridges. We brought them back, and we stuck them on a microscope similar to this, and lo and behold, the gear codes was still there. Lo and behold, the breech face was still there. And his position was, well, you didn't tell me about that. And I said, it's not my business to do it. The idea here is to put levels of redundancy. I always say that the argument on the other side, and I conclude myself kind of on the other side somewhat. I'm a Second Amendments guy. I'm a Castle Doctrine guy from New Hampshire. I'm a conservative, But I have to kind of laugh when someone throws out these scenarios where they take law enforcement and they reduce them down to the level of Wile E. Coyote, and they take a gangbanger or something like that and raise them to the criminal mastermind. And those kinds of things, I'm a practical person. I look at things, I look at data, and the data speaks. There's no data out there that shows that these people even care if this firearm is ever linked to them. They don't go and modify the firearm most of the time as it exists, because typically they got it by means that aren't traceable to them anyways. But the idea here with this technology, it targets the trafficking. Where's the source? Even if you can't get the person, it goes right back to where it came from. Maybe the straw purchaser. Maybe this person buys a lot of weapons and files a lot of reports where they're oh, I lost it. Oh, it was in the back of my truck and I went 4x4 and it leaped out. That was an example the ATF gave me out at a conference in LA. This guy had bought, like, I don't know what it was, every 30 days, or what is it in California? You have to buy every...
One a month.
One a month, yeah. He had done that over, I don't know, 16 months or something like that, and he had these filed reports, but they couldn't link it until they finally found one that got to him. Then they started investigating and found that he'd filed all these reports in these different counties. This technology would have nailed that, in regards to the I'm going to show up my cell phone. Would nail this type of thing. So, anyways, how about we take a look at this cartridge? All right, now I put this up here because this is kind of, my detractors always say, well, look, you can't see it, and you really, with any type of microscopy, you got to fine-tune things and bring them into focus. Now, we're going to go to the central portion here, which is the pin impression. Now, if I looked at that high magnification, you'd say, well, geez, that doesn't show anything. If I take away the lighting and so forth, it's kind of hard to see. If I bring back the polarization here, turn up the thing here, now all of a sudden you start, well, there's something there. And then what you need to do is adjust things. And all of a sudden now you see, now the question my detractors will say, well, that S, well, it's an S, so your mind already brings you to that conclusion. And the reality there is, yes, there's other technology you can use in order to extract that to extract this out. And that's what I explained earlier about using scan electron micrographs. Typically, what we've seen, based on data, this is not my fantasy land experiment here, but based on data, what we see is In the first, between the first rounds and about 500, in sometimes to 1,000, depends on the action of the firearm and the violent nature of it, and all kinds of other independent and dependent variables that are in there. But the reality is between 500 and 1,000, majority of these images can be seen by an optical means. When you get outside that range, you got to go to scanning electron microscopy. And but this here gives you an idea. Now this particular handgun is a Smith & Wesson model 4006, standard type sidearm for CHP out in California. It has a optimized firing pin for it, and that's why it has this capability. There's about several thousand rounds have already been on that gun, and I can still get good optical quality. But it's in regards to the nature of this. If you're not good in metrology, you're going to have difficulty. I'm an expert in metrology in the semiconductor industry, so I know all the little tricks to do to enhance clarity. Now, one thing I want to show you is that a lot of our detractors will also say, well, look, what if that's obliterated? Someone takes the pin out. What now? And I always joke with them because I always say, you know, it's up in New Hampshire, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with Pollyanna, but up in, anyways, the fact is they always make these claims, oh my God, you know, sky's falling in. But now look, this is low magnification. Can anyone pick out the breach mark between ENR and Spear, right? It's interesting, huh? And now they say, whoa, you know, but that's based on this cartridge and its ability to, its pressures, and what if you have a low pressure? And the thing is, if you look here, because I was looking around and I found it, and now you're going to say, well, how the heck did you know? And I'll just say it. You see this impression right here, this ring? That's a geometric code. A lot of the things you'll hear about these studies and stuff they've been doing alphanumerics. We're mixing geometric codes because geometric codes are easier to reproduce, and we're mixing matching technologies. But do you see right up above? What I was looking for is I was looking for that ring because that's an indicator where this next mark is right up in here. And if you go and you look, oh, what is that? It looked like it was in the grain structure, you know. Bing, there it is. And this is what's key is you got to be able to extract information as a forensic person. I'm not a forensic person, but I guess I should say this. I do forensic analysis for solving semiconductor problems. Maybe not life and death issues, but it's life and death of a company, I guess. But do you see S&W, SW101233? So that's the type of thing. Now, once again, like I said, this is an optimized firing pin. So the next thing someone will say is, well, how long did it take you to optimize it? It takes basically 2 days, and that's because because we don't want to pay for a lot of range time. So basically, it comes down to it's a set protocol to understand the dynamics of the firearm, but it's a 2-day protocol.
But once it's done for one model, it's good for the whole line.
Yep.
I mean, I'm sorry, the same type of...
The same type of mechanism, yeah. So, but now that I've adjusted everything, now you can go around and you can see 12 o'clock. Down there, maybe about between 4 and 5 o'clock. The central piece. And then what you'll notice here is a half image. So, once again, my detractors always target those things and say, oh, you know, Shazam, look, it didn't do it. That's not a good mark, so we'll count that as unsatisfactory. The reality of that is even if you had a half over here, and half down below, and half in the pin, well, guess what? All those pieces make a whole. That's investigation. I don't know how to combat that type of logic, so I don't try to. I just say, look, here's what it can do, and that's it. And you can see it. So.
Thank you all so much. Let's give a round of applause to all of our speakers. Todd Lizotte, Josh Horowitz, and Dennis Hennigan with the Brady campaign. If you have any questions, what we're going to